Okay, I'm bringing you guys the biggest rock star of the show year to date. And guess where I found her? She was nominated by somebody. So if you know a rock star out in the world that is crushing it in growth and contribution, please send them my way because today is going to be a treat. We've got Allie Cain from Welcome, North Carolina. She is averaging 35 loans a month. And get this, she's only 29 years old. Allie, you're recently married this year to Zach, a newlywed, a dog mom of two Cocker Spaniels. You love Cabernet and traveling. I want to hear about Honduras and Dominican Republic, places I've not been before. And you've only been in the business for 5 years. And so today is going to be fascinating to understand your story, how you tick, what your strategies are for growth. And the cool thing that I want to dive into is how you've had success so quickly, but also the fact that you're a networker marketer. And as many of my listeners know, marketer is the least prevalent archetype. So if you are not natural at social media and you're not natural at marketing, same with everybody else. I think it's only 9% of the thousands of tests that I've done that show up as a marketer. And so I want to learn from a marketer. I want to get in your brain, girl. So thank you for being here and welcome to the show.
I'm excited. Thank you so much.
Okay, so born and raised in Welcome, North Carolina?
Yes. Yeah. Welcome is a real small town. We have probably 2 or 3 stoplights. So born and raised here. I left for 4 years. I went to Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina, and then came back. So not real exciting, but it's
Okay.
worked.
What'd you study in college?
I studied accounting. And I tried
Wow.
accounting for like 2 seconds, and then I was like, "These people," no shame on accountants, by the way, they're super smart. My best friend's an accountant, but I'm like, "These people don't talk enough, and I'm bored." And so, yeah, I lasted for probably 6 months, and then I worked my way up to be a finance manager at a car dealership.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh.
learned, like, how to
Great.
read credit and all the things there, like what debt to income was, and after a while there, I was like, I could never be a mom and have this job, and that was my goal, was to eventually be a mom, because we worked at the dealership from 9 to 9 every single day, no exceptions. So,
Wow.
yeah,
And how long were you a finance manager and in the car sales world?
that was like 3 years.
Wow. What
Yes.
a great background at a young age to get in the business. And you obviously have a math brain, maybe a little bit of a nerd.
Yeah.
I'm projecting now.
Yeah. A little bit. I do a lot of calculations in my head, and, like, if things are on sale at a grocery store or a retail store, I can do it in my head. I do math in my sleep, so definitely a natural math nerd.
I used to I know because I studied accounting and finance in college and I love calculus and stats and I've always joked, give me a calculator and I'm turned on, right? So I'm like, oh, yay, another
Yeah.
one. Okay, I want to take you back further. So,
Okay.
what did your parents do growing up? Tell me about your childhood.
Okay, so I've been in around the housing industry my whole life. My dad, he has worked his way up to through the housing industry. He worked for a sheetrock company, which my grandparents owned. And then he opened a paint company. So he does like, or did residential paint work. That was the majority of my childhood. He did that. And then late in life, once I went off to college, he started building houses. And so now he's a wonderful builder. He's got a beautiful neighborhood coming with 37 lots. So I'm really proud of him. He's worked really hard. And my mom also is a mortgage lender. So
Okay.
I grew up around her, like always on the phone. Her hustle is insane. And so she always was on the phone and doing things to get new relationships and, just all the things that we do. And I said, I will never do that. She's on the phone way too much. So it's funny that here I am, but I've been around it my whole life. So
How old were you when your mom was got in a mortgage business?
Um, it's really all that I can remember her doing. Like, I know that she briefly worked for a call center, and then she was like an admin at a local cell tower company, but like as far as the years, like for as far as I can remember, she's majority of the time been a loan officer.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of this stuff I got in Instagram in 2 seconds, by the way. Like, I always make my guests fill out some information so I know about them and their production and all that stuff. But you guys, I went to Allie's Instagram page and literally within 2 posts, I learned that she was engaged to Zach and getting married in 2025, that she built her own home, that her dad was a builder, that she loves red wine, that she's got Cocker Spaniels. Like, just go study Allie Kane's page, if nothing else, to create 2 or 3 posts that become your pins, because
Mm-hmm.
I quickly got a sense for who are you, Allie. And so kudos to you for learning how to tell a story and weave that in so quickly. I got to know about your younger sisters. So you have a 5 and
Oh,
11-year-old sister?
yes. So they are six. Well, the 5-year-old turned 6 in June, and then the 11-year-old will be 12 in October. So people used to ask me, like, what's your purpose? Why do you do what you do? Like, who are you working so hard for? And I never, ever, ever could tell. Like, I was like, I don't know. I just like, I like being the best. I like doing a good job. I don't know why else I'm doing this. But I realized probably about a year ago, I would say, how much they look up to me and how much they try to do everything that I do. And so then I was like, oh, that clicked. Like, that's my why. They are looking up to me. I'm showing them that you can be a soft woman and, like, you can have a family, but you can also be a boss babe and you can do it, from the ground up. Like, you don't have to have somebody hand you something because I've literally built this thing from the ground up. So that's pretty cool. I love them so much.
Is
Do
this
all kinds of
is this
stuff.
you and your mom and dad have had these children together, or they've got
S-
divorced?
Divorced, dad remarried, and then Kylie, which is the older one, she was born whenever I was a freshman in college, and then Emery came a little bit later. So they're
How
they're
cool.
precious. Yeah.
And are you and your mom working in the same branch, the same company? What's the story there?
We're different companies. So when I first started in mortgage, we were with the same company. We even teamed up for a little bit. We both have very unique styles, but they're just a little bit different. So, like, she's really good with people who like kind of like get on the phone and go through the application, and I say old school, but she's gonna kill me for saying that. But just like that really, handhold, like, I'm there with you through the whole process. And as I've grown, I've kind of leaned into like delegation and efficiencies and that sort of thing. So she's very, very good and very smart. But we did end up kind of parting ways with the team. I came to Atlantic Bay in 2022, and she is now with Canopy Mortgage. So yeah, but we still brainstorm and all kinds of stuff together.
And she's in Welcome, North Carolina too.
So she splits her time. She's in Welcome some, but then she has a house in Sunset Beach. So, like, she loves to be at the beach, and she started to develop a market there too. So
I love women in the mortgage business, and the
yes,
different seasons of life, and that your mom has inspired you and she's still rocking it in her own
yeah.
style and she's living in 2 locations. Like, it just turns me on. It's just so amazing. So, uh, before we got on the call, I was like, wow, it's been a long time since I've met a girl that's so similar to me and what I felt in 3 minutes. I saw it in your production. I saw it in your drive. I saw it in your just your game face from the minute you got on. And I want to know, like, where did that drive come from? I know you said you want to be the best and you want to stand out, but do you
Hmm.
remember a time when you were younger or why you just have that
Yeah.
in you?
I think that my parents do really well now, and they've both worked really hard, but they had me and my brother at a young age. And so before they split up, they were done with kids by the time they were 21. So we kind of like grew up with them. And we were not like, we weren't poor, but we also had to check our bank accounts for, $20 if we wanted to do something. So I think, like, kind of seeing that, and then seeing my mom, after they split up, my mom would work a few jobs at a time, and she would be gone working, double time for Christmas Eve or something like that. I just kind of decided, like, I never ever want to struggle, and I want financial freedom to the point where I can go out to eat and not check my account, or I can go grab some new clothes and not have to check my account. So I think that just kind of sparked, and then just kept going. It never went out.
Okay, I just have to tie this together because my father spent 40 years owning a drywall and sheetrock company and also,
What?
swear to God, and he just sold his drywall business, but it was over 40 years. So
Oh my
I grew up
gosh.
on job sites and watching my dad in drywall and sheetrock, and he started a painting business. Um,
What?
Swear to you. And my parents had me when they were 21, and
Uh-huh.
we grew up together. And my parents got divorced. So
Oh my
I relate
God.
so much with that feeling of instability.
Mhm.
And I don't if they struggled down to 20 bucks, I never knew it. But what happened later in my life is my mom remarried another gentleman in construction. And I remember the big waves. And there was a time when we lived in this beautiful custom home that my mom and dad built in their late 20s. And I mean, they were incredible hard workers and did great in their life. But once the divorce had happened and my stepdad came around, there was a moment where the house was on the market and then it was off the market and then it was on the market. And that instability I felt as a child of like, are we good? Do we have
Right.
money? Can we do it? Can we not? Like you was like, I'm never. And of course, then I was like broke and living on an air mattress when I was 20 and like budgeting for birth control and Chinese food. And I was like, I will never be broke. This sucks.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's
um,
insane. Our stories are, like, identical.
it's really cool. So hard times happen to everybody. Fear
Mhm.
happens to everybody. It's does it paralyze you or does it propel you? And I can tell that you've got this limitless energy and drive that it just propels you forward to the point that you self-described yourself as crazy, is one of the crazies. So
Yeah.
what does that really look like? What's behind the scenes of Allie Kane? Like if I was following you from the morning when you woke up to you went to bed, like what does crazy Allie really look like?
Hot mess. So, I mean, I get up pretty not super early, but probably could be earlier. 6:30, and, trying to get better about this, but I instantly check my phone for, like, any referral partners that need anything, emails, like, you know, I that's not a great quality, but that's part of the crazy, like, I'm gonna look and I'm gonna start you're responding so no one's waiting on me. And then I get to the office every single day, by 8:30 or 9, closer to 8:30. That's something that I kind of forgot early in my career. I didn't go to the office every day, and I couldn't imagine not because it just kind of grounds me for the day. And like I get started, me and my team meet every day at 9 o'clock, and we go over any new applications, any contracts that we need to talk about. Like that's like our kind of foundation for the day. And after that, really anything goes. It's anywhere from teaching a class to meeting with an agent for lunch to checking in on some files, problem solving, um, marketing, social media, content creation. Like it's pretty crazy. And then if for some reason there's a lot going on, I can be here as late as 10 o'clock at night sometimes. I think we talked about like those 12-hour days because growing, you go through those pains and sometimes you just have to sacrifice and get through it. And then you come out on the other end and you find a way to not let that happen next time by maybe having another team member or a different process or something. But that's kind of how my day goes.
Thank you for the honesty, right?
Yeah.
Like people want big success. They want to be a monster and a badass in the industry, but are you willing to do
The
what
hard.
what the
Yeah.
badasses are doing, right?
Yeah.
And my hope and prayer always is like I just don't want to be in the same struggle a year from now.
Yep.
Like, just the truth is that if you're growing a business or you're even in business or you're alive as a human being, you're always going to have a struggle, period.
Yes.
And the minute that we can accept that like life is not struggle free, but we kind of let it move through us and instead of letting it paralyze us and defeat us and really freeze us because a lot of people freeze and this is why they kill their momentum and they're always having to restart themselves. But
Yeah.
the goal is to keep evolving and growing through the struggle. So hopefully the next struggle is a little bit different than the last one. And
That's
then
right.
it becomes an adventure because it's growth and you're blowing through it. So we have to talk about how your rapid growth and how you've done this. In 2023, you closed 39 million.
Mhm.
In 2024, it's 79 million. And let me just add the units because it's way more impressive. Last year, you helped 292 families in 2024 in a small community. This year, you are over at 280 units already, and we're here in August. So
Yeah.
we're talking 35 loans a month on average. So you'll definitely cross over 100 million this year, even with your baby loan sizes of 273. um, so I want to know, you start out, you've been around mom, you've got this incredible sales background and math brain, and you're cute and you're high energy and you're ferocious and you're driven and you're crazy. And all those things are your character traits that help you go. But like, what were you doing 3 years ago? And what are you doing today to get that business?
So, whenever I first started on this, I would say like journey of growth, I really didn't know what the secret sauce, like, everyone's like, what's the secret sauce? What works? What's going to bring you the most business? I didn't know what that was. So I did hire a coach, and we just started doing everything. Like, he even said, like, what works for someone in Nashville is not going to work for someone in Welcome or Charlotte or whatever. So you just kind of have to try things and not give up on them. So the first year of my growth, I would consider myself a yes man. Like, if an agent asked me to come to an open house, yes. If you want me to teach a class, yes. It was never hesitation. Like, everything, just dove in. And I did that for a solid probably 2023 and 24, just saying yes to everything. Now, this year has been my year of learning how to like fine tune what's working, kind of pull back on some quality or pull back and focus on quality relationships and that sort of thing. But in that period of growth, like, it was yes to everything. I'm open to it. I have a positive attitude about it, and I'm willing to spend money too. I think that's part of, people ask like, well, if I was producing numbers like that, I would be able to do this marketing too. But the reality is, I wasn't always producing numbers like this. I was producing numbers, 16 million is kind of where I was on average. And it did take a lot more of that chunk of my, pay at the end of the day to dive back into the business and invest back in it more than I do now. So I might have been investing like 30% of my earnings back into it then. I'm not doing that now, but I had to go through that period of time where I was and be okay with that. And so I think like people get stuck there and they're like, "Oh, that's just crazy. I can't do that." So I was a yes man.
Thank you for saying that. And what gave you the confidence to invest 30% in? Like, what was your story to
Mhm.
say, I'm taking 30% of my earnings when I'm doing 16 million and I am dumping it into coaching and development and team and marketing? Like,
Yeah.
how did you know
Honest
it was going to be worth it or that it would pay off?
Honestly, I don't think that I knew it was gonna be worth it, but I felt like I didn't really have another choice because it was right when the market shifted, and I remember my manager asking me, around that time, like, "Who are some of your best referral partners?" And I didn't know, like, I couldn't tell her 5. I was getting business randomly, and I couldn't tell her, and so it's like, this is my last, not last, but this is like my only option right now is to just dive into it. And I'm kind of that personality anyways. Like, I'm just like, it is what it is. I'm going to do it. Like, we're going to fix it. So I guess that's probably part of the reason, but I had no idea if it was going to work or not. And I likely didn't even think about it. I was like, let's just do it. Let's go for
I
it.
have a hunch, though. I have a hunch that you trusted yourself and
Yeah.
your work ethic and your drive and the do whatever it takes, say yes, please, and thank you with a positive attitude. And you believed you had more potential than a $16 million business. Is
Yes.
that correct to assume?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I want everybody to hear this because I'm the biggest proponent of coaching. I was sharing with Allie before we got on my personal story. I was as driven and crazy as Allie from the minute I got in this business and fell in love with it. And I also hit a plateau on my own. Like, I was impressive as hell. I was doing 200 deals a year with no processor and no assistant. So anybody would look at that and go, wow. But I knew deep in my being and my core, Allie, that I had more potential, that I was frustrated I wasn't like, oh, wow, that success is so great. I was like, wait a minute, but I know I'm missing out and I know this could be better. I just have no clue what the steps are. And if you believe in yourself, that's when you got to put your money where your mouth is. And I think the first best investment is not a social media consultant or a branding person. It's a coach who's outside of you and can give you feedback because they can see the whole picture. Because we can't
Yes.
see it when we're so close to it. So who was that coach and how long have you been coached?
So that's Tim Davis, and
Oh, Tim.
that was since I think we started January of 23. So it was like
Awesome.
very beginning of that year, just dove in.
And you're still with Tim now?
Yes.
Cool. And are you
Yeah.
one-on-one or are you in a group?
Yes, one-on-one.
Cool.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so thankful. And thank you, Tim Davis, because look at your shining star here. This is amazing. And I like that you said, we're going to try everything and we're not going to give up and we're going to go for it. And now, after you've made a mess of it and you said yes to everything, you're refining. And you're already a leader. How many people on your team right now?
So I have on my direct team, I have 4. And
Okay.
then we have like my underwriter is designated to me and processors designated to me. So I have like some corporate people that are some corporate girls that are on my team, I would say, but they're
Yeah.
not like I don't supervise them, if that makes sense.
No, totally makes sense. And now the 4 that you have, are any of them producing or sales or business development, or are they all like loan partners handling the loans coming in?
They're all support. So Sarah, which is my team manager, she was a loan officer.
Nice.
And she came on a little less than a year ago. And so she still has a loan here and there that'll come in from her trusted partners, but she's not outsourcing that business.
Great.
Um, and then I have Madison and Amanda, which are loan officer assistants.
Great.
And then I have Laurie, who's here in the office as well, and she does a lot of the admin stuff like closing gifts and budget reports and the tedious things.
Yes, the stuff that has to get done for the
Yeah.
business. And it's an incredible position to have once you've got the volume to have it.
Mm-hmm.
What's so cool is I've been working on my Slay with Shay presentation for my event in September with all the stuff on team. And I literally have all of these team roles dialed out and what are their top 3 job duties and how do you get somebody from a level 1 person to a level 4 person, right?
Oh, I
Because
love that.
you can hire an I'll send it to you. You can hire an
Okay.
LOA, but they're going to start at level 1 if they're green. And what does level 1 look like? And what are the milestones for if you onboard somebody? What do they get to in 90 days? What do they get to 120? Where do you see them in 6 months?
Yeah.
So fantastic. And Sarah, I imagine, is a team manager with her given experience. She could be your body double. So if you're in Honduras and you're on that long plane and you're not available, she can do a pre-qual, a pre-approval. She could be a
Yeah.
body double for you, correct?
Yes. And to mention on that, something that happened this year that was just and like a huge like moment for me. I left my whole phone behind and Sarah kept it for a trip that I went on. For actually the first trip I went on in April, she kept it. And then when I got married, she kept it for 10 days. So that's a big thing that like for other producers out there, my biggest, like one of my biggest proud moments, one of my biggest suggestions is go ahead and get you a burner phone that you can take that like 5 people have the number to, and have your other phone where your team can help you because I was the only one. The April trip was a trip with Atlantic Bay for top producers, and I was the only one on that trip that had that luxury. And it just to me, it felt like such an accomplishment. Like I had gotten to that place, and I was like, oh my goodness, I can trust someone to literally be me. No one knew the difference. Our partners got the same service from her that they would have gotten from me. And I can actually unplug and be with my fiance and enjoy that time.
So if you're listening in your car, you can't see me like jumping up and down and golf clapping with excitement because for the crazies that are willing to say yes to everything and are so freaking driven and wake up and immediately start solving problems and even
Yep.
solve problems in our dreams and put loans together in our dreams. Like to leave your phone behind is a massive thing. And it comes with trusting yourself. It comes with trusting that you're building real referral partner relationships, that if one loan gets screwed up or two leads got missed or the delayed, like your whole business doesn't fall apart. And for the longest time, Allie, I had this belief that every lead I was on show, every deal had to be perfect. And so my crazy was even crazier because I was looking for perfection and I didn't trust other people to do it because I had that confidence in myself and I didn't know how to delegate. So you being 29 and where you're at is so far ahead of where I was at 29, which is my motivation for this podcast, is because like you went in to this business with the intention of, I want to make a lot of money and be super, super secure and stable. And I want to be a mom. And unfortunately, I became a mom like 5 seconds after I started coaching.
Wow.
And so those first 4 years where I was like still in insano mode and didn't know how to build a team and didn't have processes. And I'm learning, I had infants and newborns and I have a lot of shame and guilt because I didn't know how to be present when they were babies. I wouldn't allow them to discharge me from the hospital with my first baby until I got a loan locked because I was on the hospital Wi-Fi. Like I'm telling you, I took a loan application in my freaking wedding dress. I just remembered this. You know, you block this shit out.
Yes.
So why do I believe in coaching? Because it gives you the courage to put these systems and people in place.
Yes.
And I'm sure your girls have a blast. You guys together are high-fiving each other and you're winning.
Yeah. We do. We have a blast. And I think that what you said about coaching to help scale a team is so important because no one really tells you that. I think as an originator, there's a lot of great qualities that the company can offer you and a lot of good coaching they can offer you. But something that I think you might struggle getting coaching on scaling a team with your manager at your company is because everyone scales differently. Everyone's personality is different. So we can't expect our like regional manager or our area manager or whoever you have to know what advice to give you because everyone's is so different. And so that's something I didn't realize, but I'm learning, that you really need a coach for that.
Well, and a coach who's a crazy like we are and who's doing it or has done it is super helpful, right? Okay, so let's talk about where your business comes from. So this 35 units a month, and we keep referencing Welcome, but how many people live in your county? Like, what are you working with?
Gosh, I have no idea. 3,649.
Okay, we're talking baby. But are you like on the outskirts of a big city or?
A lot of people ask me that, but not really. I mean, I'm outside of Winston-Salem, which some people may know more about Winston-Salem. It's not as big as like Charlotte or Raleigh or anything like that, but I live in what they call the triad. So there's a lot of little places kind of around. So you've got like Welcome, which is within Lexington. Lexington's more of like the city. And then you've got like Winston-Salem, High Point, Greensboro. It's like this triangle. I don't know. But it's a bunch of like small places that kind of come together. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
There's advantages to every market that you're in, and you have to see the advantages you're in. And, being in a small town is incredible because you can get known really quickly. And if you're amazing, like you can grow brand and trust and scale that quickly. However, it's still a small market. So you could have 50% market share, but if there's only 100 deals going down, you're only doing 50 deals, even at 50% market share.
Yeah.
And what I find with a small town is the pressure to perform is even higher because everybody talks and you feel like you've got to have your A game on all the time and people know your car and they know where you're at and you can't hide. So, but in a big town, you can make mistakes and whatever. There's another 1,000 realtors to go talk to, but it's harder to become known and to build a brand and to get walk-ins. So there's pros and cons, and you just have to win in whatever market you're in, right? That
Yes.
can't be the excuse. So what percentage of your business is realtor, builder, past client? What does it look like now?
I would say about 70% is realtor, probably about 15% builder, and then about 15% just like self-generated social media, small town. That 15% self-generated is rapidly growing though, and that's something that was a goal of mine, and I really didn't know if it was even attainable. I just had like this idea, and I'm like, hey, I want 30 or 40% of my business to come from self-generated and be able to hand leads to realtors because I want to give back to them like they've given to me. But, it's very uncommon that a loan officer gets a client that's not represented already to be able to hand it to the realtor. And I wanted that security too because I love my realtor relationships, but they can be very hard to like obtain and upkeep and all the things. And so I wanted some sense of security to know like this portion of my business is coming from me. They're coming to me first. So yeah.
Well, it's then a value add you can teach because you've gained the skill, and it's something you could teach to help other people be
Yeah.
self-made and be a rainmaker themselves. So how many realtors have you met with over the last 5 years? You've been a loan officer
Gosh.
for a total of 5 years and 6 months. How many
Yeah.
realtors do you think you've sat down with or met?
So I have a CRM that I started when I began to grow, and it has over 1,000 realtors in it. And that might have come from meeting face to face, one on one. It might have came from hosting an event. It may have come from them being on the listing side of a transaction. But at some point, I had some sort of communication with all 1,000 of them.
And are you marketing to those 1,000? And if so, what do you do?
So they get a daily email from me, which is a part
Daily.
of this. Yeah, daily email, which is a part of the CRM. So it's a daily interest rate update. And basically, it's just pulling like average rates, not even Atlantic Bays, just national averages, and it's sending it to them. And it's every single day at the same time. And so
And you don't write that, that's just automated and sent
it's,
out.
yes. And
So
then,
you have a daily rate email. We do a text, and it's actually written by a loan officer, and we rip off and duplicate it and do it over
nice.
a texting app. Yeah. So I don't really love talking about rates because that's the biggest problem with our business is everybody being so rate focused versus actually advising. However, what I've noticed with realtors, because it's been so weird and volatile the last couple years, is that they want to feel like they're in the know. And if we can give them a talking point, it
Yeah.
just helps them. And it's a touch. It's a touch. It doesn't generally get a lot of business, but it's a touch. So what else do you do for these 1,000 people? Because I want to start high level and then drill
Yeah.
down to like your core people.
Okay. So for those 1,000, I still, whenever I do an event, I have shifted my events. I used to have past client events separate and then realtor events separate, but just this year I started doing community events. So it's basically just open to realtors, past clients, anybody in the community. So I do two big community events every year, and every realtor that's in my database is invited. Those are movie night, which we just did. We do like an outdoor movie. And then we do a pumpkin patch event where every family gets a ticket for a free pumpkin. So those are the two big ones. And then I guess drilling down a little bit because that would be the only touches to them would be that daily rate update and then the two events. If they do a deal with us, they get updates like insanely throughout the process through that CRM. So appraisal's been ordered, anything from appraisal's been ordered to appraisals in to clear to close to instructions sent to the attorney. And we do that to the buyer's agent and listing agent. We've gotten business just from that by listing agent saying, oh my gosh, this communication is out of this world. Like, I want to meet with you and send my buyers to you. And then drilling down even more, we host a annual party for some of our agents that we've closed business with throughout the year. I try to invite every single agent that we've like interacted with on that level, like if we've closed business with them or if they've become a great partner, and it's called the Circle of Excellence. So we throw a party for them, and we do like food and drinks, let them bring their spouse. And then we just give like some funny awards, some like top producer awards, just different things. We have trophies, and they really look forward to it. You dress up, have a good time.
So when you're talking about I needed to spend money and we're going back
Yeah.
to 2022 and you're taking 30% of your earnings, you first invest in coaching.
Yep.
That's money, first money out of the door.
Mm-hmm.
Then what's second and third money out of the door? What do you
Second was branding, because I knew that if I was going to start doing these events and stuff, I had to show up like extra. I had to have a logo. I had to, have my own pins and bags and stuff. So that was the second. And then third, I think that leverage would probably be third, as far as bringing on a team member to help and the CRM. Both of those were kind of like in that leverage category.
Okay, so a team member and a CRM. So you have not spent money with a social media company, video company, any of that, or have you already done that as part of branding?
Not yet. Let's see. I think that I did that for the first time in 2024. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I would also under the leverage category maybe put events. Or where
Mhm.
do you put that? Do you put that under a marketing category? And when did that money start getting invested and spent?
I would say simultaneously with like the CRM and the team member events came. I started small, probably before the CRM and before the team member. After I had my brand put together, I started small with like lunch and learns, and I tried to schedule at least one lunch and learn per week with different real estate offices, and I would even have like an offering that I would say to a big firm that I was already working with. I would say, "Hey, I'll come in once a month and teach on something, like you tell me the topic or I'll come up with something." And so I got several firms to agree to that, and I would at least do one lunch and learn per week. So that was kind of like micro event, I would say.
Yep.
And then as I invested more into like a team member and a CRM, I started planning my pumpkin patch I think that was my big first event. Yeah. That same
And
year though.
teaching these classes, by the way, I was expecting you to say one lunch and learn a month, but I'm not surprised when you said one a week because of
Yeah.
your rapid growth. It means that she's taking massive action. And it's not that she's blowing up her brand, it's blowing up her connection with people. You're seeing a ton and ton and ton and ton of people. So how at the, age of 26 or, wherever you're at in here, 26, 27, whatever, are you showing up as the credible professional? Because I think a lot of 20 somethings, which by the way, only 2% of loan officers are in their 20s.
Really?
Yes,
That's insane.
2%. And
Wow.
11% are in their 30s. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're under 40 years old, there's only 13% under 40. It's
Mhm.
it's a huge advantage for you to be able to stand out and say, hey, I represent the buyer of now. And I know how to use technology and the tools. And I'm just wicked efficient and smart and, young and
Yeah.
have energy. Like use it to your selling advantage. But
Yeah.
how did you demonstrate your credibility in these lunch and learns, whether it's the topics or your story?
I think everything that I did, whether it be just meeting with an agent or doing a lunch and learn, I showed up in a big way. Like, I didn't just show up with business cards and lunch. I showed up with, like, if I was teaching, um, I can't even think of anything right now, but like I would show up with a packet of stuff. I would show up with like just so prepared and so like well presented that they're like, "Oh wow." I remember meeting an agent, her name's Caitlin Jenkins, and she is close to my age. Actually, I think we're the same age. And the first time I met her, I showed up with this box, and it was like this pizza sized box and had my name on it, and in the box, it had brochures of like what it looks like to work with me, a monthly magazine that I send out, listing flyers, pins, koozies, like just random stuff, but just like a glimpse of who I am as a loan officer. And whenever I left that day, later she started working with me, and then later on she's like, the reason I chose you is because you came with this box. And I was like, oh my gosh, this girl has her shit together. Like, nobody else that I met with had that. And I got the similar reaction from a builder that I showed up and I had a packet put together in a binder and just, showed up well presented. And they said, well, the reason we chose you was not anything other than you came very well prepared. So I guess that was it, because it is a struggle being young and being young girl, and you get those looks like, do you really know what you're talking about? But showed up well prepared.
And I can relate because I have always said, and you're beautiful.
Thank
Let's
you.
just be real. But I can tell that you're not relying on your beauty. You are relying on your preparedness and your hustle and your, showing people that you're competitive and you're into it. And I remember thinking like, if somebody says you're pretty, I'm like, thanks. But if somebody
Mm-hmm.
says, wow, you got your shit together, or you really know what you're doing, or you're super capable, that is what made me proud.
Yes.
That was the goal, is to, and I don't know about you, but having the chip on my shoulder of being young, even being blonde,
Mm-hmm.
um,
I
drove
bet.
me to even play bigger. I wore a suit for the first, and today I guess people don't wear suits as much, but like, show that you are freaking serious, that you are a professional, that you are excited about the opportunity. Because the preparedness also means like, this opportunity means a lot to me. And when people feel that you treat it that way, it's incredible. So I gotta
Yeah.
believe these are the 10 p.m. to midnight work
Yes.
hours where you're preparing flyers and you're
Yep.
preparing your stuff so that when you show up during the work days at a meeting, you look like a star with this packet. Would I be right in
Oh,
assuming that?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I mean, it is a struggle when you're growing of, like, making sure the files are happening like they should be and answering all the calls and then preparing for the next day to show up in a big way. I mean, those were probably some of the hardest years of my life. Now, I'm glad that I kept pushing through because now it's not as hard, but it's hard times, you know that. Like, you've put in the midnight oil, whatever they say, midnight burning oil, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we understand that you've taken massive action. You've met over 1,000 realtors through teaching classes and hosting big events. And I'm wondering where the networking marketing archetypes come together, because generally what I say with the two archetypes is, one is what helps you convert, and one you need to use for leverage and scale. And so, do you think your networking events is what helped your ability to network and see a ton of people and work a room is what helped you with the scale, but your marketing, your ability to show yourself and tell a story is what helps you convert? Or how would you put that in your own words?
Um, I would say showing up in a big way and showing up like, so I'll let you put this in your terminology because you probably understand better if I just give you an example. But like showing up to multiple people at a time. So I think a lot of people will start taking the realtors to lunch and like one at a time. And I never did that. Like I would always go and do an event where there would be 100 there or 50 there or 20 there. And so I could like make a larger impact. And then once I got them to call me, I just was very relational with them, very like, we are, we're partners. I'm like that with their client. And so I don't know how that unfolds into the terminology, but I think showing up like in a large way and over a large number of people. And then I I will say that I never, like, called a realtor and said, "Hey, can we work together?" I always, like, attracted them with doing these events and doing things, educating and whatever it was. I really wouldn't know how to call a realtor today if I tried and say, like, "Hey, can we do business together?" Because I never have. So when they come once they call after we've done something like that, just being friendly with them and, having the same goal in mind.
I'm so happy you brought that up, because so many people's personalities would align with that. And they're going to
Mhm.
listen and go, holy cow, this girl does 35 deals a month and she isn't directly calling and aggressively asking, like,
No,
you
I
can do
never
it, I
have.
can do it. So
Yeah,
you must have a really clear call to action or next step or warm invitation that gets them to call you. That is
I
an
think
art.
I think maybe warm invitation because 'cause I've not ever been great at call to action until I like, in that fine-tuning phase that we were talking about, that's when I started being like, "Oh, what do I actually wanna get out of this, and what's my call to action?" But I think maybe the warm invitation is like, you hit the nail on the head there because people always say I'm very humble and I'm very inviting and, like, they become friends with me quickly, so that probably is.
So you show up big and you're impressive. but I'm a realtor going, yeah, but can I trust her with my $10,000 commission? How do you show that you're credible? Like I've got the likability part and I've got
Right.
the, you're impressive, like just from your energy and who you are as a human. But like, where did you bridge that gap to say, oh, I know my shit and I'm going to do a great job for you?
So I think that after I started doing I always would like highlight on my presentation that, this is the kind of business that we're doing. And I'm not saying this to say, like, toot my own horn, but I'm saying this to say I know what I'm doing. And I wasn't afraid to say that out loud. So, like, I remember there was presentations where I would say, and it might not be 200 deals because I wasn't always doing that, but I would say, I helped 80 families over the last year. And I'm not saying that to say, I'm wonderful and you guys should be like, ooh and ah, but I'm saying that to show you that I see all types of situations. I work through the situation. I push to get to the closing table just as hard as you do. And I treat them like my family. And so I would just like, would say things like that. And I think that I believed that. I wasn't just saying it. And so they can feel that. When you really believe it and you're like, this is me and I'm just telling you how I operate, they can feel that. And they're like, oh, okay. I can probably trust her then.
I tell you, I think this is a gift of a marketer. I even,
Mhm.
in looking at your Instagram, you have one post that's like, here's my stats, basically. And it felt really warm to receive it. Like it did not feel like I'm just bragging and saying I'm the best. It felt very much like, wow, okay, this girl's a player.
Mhm.
And I felt, and like literally, I looked at your Instagram 5 seconds before we came on. I looked at 2 or 3 posts are at the top. They were probably your pinned.
Yep.
And I want everybody to do that because for all of us that aren't marketers, we have to be able to toot our own horn, ring the bell, show that we are credible. We know what we're doing to build that actual referral, right?
Yeah.
And so thank you for breaking that down. Um, I could go on and on. I could spend hours with you, Allie. I am so impressed with what you're building and your humility. The last thing I want to just say is your commitment to personalization and how you've been able to keep it personalized, but then also delegate and have a team.
Yep.
Because so many people get stuck doing 5 loans a month because they're so proud of their hand holding and that relationship and friendship they build. And then they get stuck and
Yeah.
they don't. So how have you thought about this and how have you kept it while scaling?
So some things that I've done is when I do market on social media or I go to an event, I market my team. Like I bring them up a lot and I even would bring them with me in the beginning stages and the agents get comfortable with them as well. But also as far as like making sure that the client still felt that personalization, for a while I would have my team join me on calls. Like I do a pre-approved call and an under contract call with all of my clients, and I would have them, and I still do this sometimes. I would have them join the call and just hear how I interact with the client because I wanted them to kind of learn how to replicate so that the client felt the same kind of energy and the same perseverance to get them to the finish line and the same, just all the things. So we did that for a while, and I think that once I felt confident that they were going to treat people similar to how I do, and I believed that, I could then tell the agents that if they say, oh hey, Maddie did this call with my client today, why wasn't it you? I can confidently say, well, she's literally a twin to me. Like I have taught her, she knows exactly the things that I do. I still oversee the whole operation. And if there's an issue, I help them work through it. But them helping me with these calls and talking to your clients gives your client even better service because they're available a lot more than I am. And I might be doing an event. And so it was not easy to let go. But I think teaching them by example and then gaining that confidence that I can then express to the agent, that was huge.
So I got to imagine you're doing about 50 pre-approval or more, 50 pre-approval meetings a month, new pre-approvals.
Mhm.
And you're probably having 40 new deals go under contract.
Yes.
So just the sheer number that is, you have to leverage that. But if I were to take a peek on your calendar right now, how much of your calendar is packed with pre-approval meetings versus these prospecting and marketing activities?
Right now, the pre-approval meetings are mostly done by the team. You probably wouldn't see
Wow.
maybe one or two on there. We do have like a policy where if it is a certain level of client that would maybe want more options with rate and things like that, where they're not super comfortable with the pricing, then they'll do that call with me. Anything else, though, they're handling those. So I would say that probably 30% now of my calendar is still like client meetings. And then the other 40 is going to be realtor meetings, events, content strategy, podcasts, just business development.
Yeah, so you've truly taken on the mindset of a rainmaker, and the job duties of a loan officer, which is to make it rain, get the phone to ring, build and maintain referral partner relationships, and then lead the team so that the promises you're making to the customer and the promises you're making to the referral partner, you can confidently feel comfortable your team is going to carry forward. Not that they don't make mistakes and not that they're humans and not that out of 35 deals, I can imagine 7 people a month, usually it's 20%, are kind of pissed off
Mhm.
or angry
Yeah.
or frustrated or annoyed or shaky. And you're jumping in and loving on them. And that's just what the beautiful mess looks like when you're doing a lot of volume. Would you agree?
Yep. Yep, I would agree. And on those 7, I'm glad you said that because I didn't know that stat. I thought it was just me that still had pissed off people sometimes. But on those, when they get irritable or something doesn't go great, we always meet about it and implement something new, like a new policy or a new something. And I think that that's also helped grow because I think we can easily just say, oh, well, some clients are
Right.
crappy and they're going to get ill and whatever. But I take it personal like every single time, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But we're always trying to look for ways to make that not happen again.
But you're not taking it so personally that you're preventing your growth. And
Right.
this
No.
this I have to coach people through all the time. I'm like, expect struggle, expect problems, more money, more problems. So if you want more loans, you're going to have more people pissed off. And don't be apathetic, like you said, or point fingers or blame. Always look at what this is teaching us, implement something on our strategy, and show people you really care. And
Yep.
most of the time, that will solve the problem. That will preserve a relationship when you take ownership. You talk about how you're going to fix it, and then you learn from it and you keep leveling up, and your team gets better as a result. So,
Yep.
um, wow, I am so grateful I got to know you.
Me
We're going to be
too.
text friends, best friends. I want to support you on this journey, girl. You are destined for great things, and I know you've made a huge contribution to our industry and to my community. So thank you for this time today.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been fun.